from the Schmoes Know Network studios in Los Angeles, California, it's time for Meet the Movie Press. And now, here's your host, the editor-in-chief of SchmoesKnow.com, Mark Reilly, and from The Wrap, Jeff Snyder.
And hello, Schmoville. Good morning. Happy Friday. This is Meet the Movie Press. I am Mark Reilly, editor-in-chief of SchmoesKnow.com, with some allergies today. Jeff?
Jeff Snyder, film reporter for The Wrap, and my nose is just fine.
God, man, I swear, there's like a fire ant up my nose or something. It's just like, ugh. Isn't that gross? Isn't that a great way to start off?
Lovely visual.
Yeah, great way to start off Meet the Movie Press. Thanks, guys, out there in Schmoville for commenting on the Facebook Meet the Movie Press on the Schmoes Know Network fan page, as well as subscribing and rating and commenting. And guys, if you didn't know, we had a little glitch with iTunes. It happens when you're building an empire.
What happened?
I don't know exactly, but guys, if you're out there and you have subscribed to the show, please go back and resubscribe. Yeah, it's one of those.
Resubscribe.
Yeah, resubscribe.
Re-comment. Re-like.
Yeah, I think the comments are there. I think that the ratings are there, but you might want to subscribe again just so you don't miss a single episode of Meet the Movie Press. Because, yeah, we did, as happens when we're building all these shows, I guess we had a little glitch. So,
yeah, there's continuity in this show, you know. You need to be able to get all the inside jokes.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't want to miss an episode.
You don't want to miss an episode. But we have a great show, as always, this Friday. We have Erik Davis from Movies.com and Fandango Skyping in any minute now. But we wanted to go right off the bat. There seems to be some news.
Guys, I was making my internet rounds this morning.
Yes.
I stumbled upon Cinema Blend.
Cinema Blend, I love their site.
Which I read all the time.
We're getting somebody on from Cinema Blend, by the way. This is what I hear. So,
Mark, I'm in the middle of breaking news.
Sorry, Jeff. Please continue.
Yeah, no, we are going to have someone from Cinema Blend on soon because they have eagle eyes who scout things like this. They're an extra on Batman v Superman. Apparently broke confidentiality knowing that there's a $5 million fine at risk.
Man, that's
I'm guessing, you know, you're not a millionaire if you're just an extra on Batman v Superman, but it's possible.
Pretty sure, yeah.
And they're saying that Jenna Malone could very well be playing Robin, and that Robin is female in the movie, could possibly be playing Carrie Kelly from The Dark Knight Returns.
The Dark Knight Returns, and look at that graphic right here on our big movie screen.
We stole it from Cinema Blend.
We stole it from Cinema Blend. Thanks, guys. And wow, that for me as a fan of The Dark Knight Returns, one of the greatest graphic novels, one of the greatest Batman stories, in my opinion, as a humble fanboy, to potentially have Jenna Malone as Robin in Batman v Superman is pretty cool for me, at least. How do you feel about this?
I love Jenna Malone. I think she'd be really, that sounds super neat.
Yeah.
I really dig it. And what's crazy to me, I'm just imagining being in that newsroom. This is WILX.
Yeah.
I don't know where that's based out of.
It might be Michigan News. Michigan News.
Okay, there you go. But
yeah.
It was like they disguised this extra's voice and hid his face. This is like their big moment. This is like
they're breaking an exclusive story.
God.
Yeah, I know. And it like the peeps out there in Michigan, they're like, Robin who?
Yeah,
right? Is that mean to say?
That's how I feel. I'm like, okay, Robin's female. That's super cool. But let's talk about this scoop or whatever. WILX. Good for you guys.
Yeah, way to go, guys. I mean,
how much did you have to pay this extra?
Yeah,
probably not $5 million.
And do you think in this case, who it's a confidentiality agreement? We're going to charge you $5 million if you breach this contract. And this person goes, whatever, and it goes on the news.
To spoil a movie that comes out in 2 years?
Yeah, it spoils a movie that comes out in 2 years, hides the face. I mean, this is like, this like when those sexual predators go on, and they're like...
At least it's probably true, since he is going to all those lengths to,
Yeah, absolutely.
He's just making things up, and he's like, don't look at me.
Don't look at me, I'm hideous. My God, that is some... if I can comment as the biggest fanboy of the Batman series, pretty much, next to Superman, but I mean, they're both in the same movie. But this, to me, Carrie Kelly as Robin is not only, giving a great nod to the source material, The Dark Knight Returns, is that, which has always been kind of the thing. That was how Snyder announced it at Comic-Con a few years back or 2 years back. And, everybody's excited that it's based loosely on one of the best Batman stories. To have Robin, also as a female, that's really great.
It honestly, it never made sense with WB doing all these characters, and we're like, "Where's Robin?"
Yeah,
like Robin has to show up in Batman v Superman.
Yeah,
and I like that they seem to be doing a new twist on it, the character,
and that's what I love. It's they're taking it from the source material. It's great to have a female Robin.
This isn't confirmed, by the way.
No.
I mean,
we're speculating.
I'm still confused as to who Scoot McNairy's playing. Some people tell me Jimmy Olsen, but
yeah. We had an interview with him on schmoesknow.com, and we were speculating that he was the Flash, and we will get into, by the way, Schmovo, the huge Marvel
we're
DC
going to
news.
save all that stuff for when Erik Davis is here.
Yes, when Erik Skypes in, we're going to talk about that. But with this news, when Ezra Miller was cast as the Flash, that was out of left field for me. I was assuming Scoot McNairy was the Flash.
Couldn't he be Green Lantern?
He could be Green Lantern. I don't know, because now they're saying, I've heard different things. And spoiler alert, guys, and I'm not hearing it from any reliable source. This was in a geeky conversation. So please don't go quoting me left and right thinking that I know something that you don't. I heard that Green Lantern is showing up in part 2 of Justice League. That's just a geeky conversation I had, and he's showing up based on...
Do we still think Ryan Reynolds is coming back?
Yeah, no, Ryan Reynolds is not coming back. But, I'm hearing that, El Mayembe was on last week, dropped huge scoop of Brainiac as the villain in Justice League. And then, moreover, in this geeky conversation I was having, I hear that it's not that part 2... Or part 1 of Justice League will see the crash landing of either Hal Jordan or John Stewart, one of the Green Lanterns. I hope it's John Stewart, and that he has come to Earth to warn that it's like, okay, Brainiac, sure, something worse is coming, and that's Darkseid. And so that's how Green Lantern gets involved, which makes sense again, because then if Justice League Part 2 and he's a part of it, after Justice League Part 2, you get a rebooted Green Lantern.
We have so much superhero news to get to. Should we just have Erik on so we can
Let's just get Erik on, yeah. And you know what, Erik, are you there, Erik?
I am.
Erik, welcome to Meet the Movie Press. How are you, sir?
What's going on, guys? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Welcome. And so, Erik, you are with movies.com and Fandango. Is that correct?
I am. That is me.
That is you.
You have the right guy.
You have? Okay, good.
That's a hell of a URL.
Yeah.
Movies.com.
That is.
You guys got in early on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I did not start it. It was, I came over. It had already existed for a few years. Disney had owned it. Mm-hmm. And then, they had sold it. And so I kind of came in when it was, nobody really knew what to do with it. And since then, I've been trying to put content on there that would make sense for someone who was going to a website called movies.com.
Yeah. And I was noticing that. I was reading one of your articles. Listen, the pros and cons of shared movie universes, Spider-Man, Robin Hood, Batman, and more. And you actually have your own podcast. Is that correct? Fancast?
Yeah. This is a little podcast that I do with my buddy Sean O'Connell, who manages Cinema Blend, their movie content.
Nice.
And once a week, once every other week. We're not as sort of regimented as Meet the Movie Press is. But, we get together when there's big stuff to talk about, when we're at film festivals together, and we'll throw up podcasts. And they seem to do pretty well. And we'll just kind of ramble on for a while and talk about the new hot topics of the day. Lately, it's been the shared universes and everybody doing the shared universes. This week we talked about Marvel v DC because those boys dropped some big news this week. Yeah. And we do a little bit of that.
That's Dude, I got to ask you, I'm detecting an accent. Where are you from?
I am from New York.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Are you based out of New York?
I am. I was born in Manhattan, lived in Staten Island for many years, moved back to Manhattan, lived in Queens. Now I'm in Long Island.
Nice.
I love it. You got some personality. I'm going to start listening to that podcast.
I know.
Please do.
And so you got your buddy at Cinema Blend, and we were just talking about them. They just...
Oh,
yeah, I don't know if you know, they just broke something, or I don't know if they broke it.
Yeah, they picked it up.
They picked it up, a report from...
got my attention.
Got our attention. They just reported a Michigan TV station just had an extra from Batman v Superman that just dropped some bombs.
I was just looking at that too right before we came on.
Yeah, we were talking about it.
Like they had to mask his face and like disguise his voice.
Yeah,
because he was going to be scared. He was going to be sued for $5 million.
Exactly.
I don't blame him. But yeah, he dropped some bombs. A little Robin.
Yeah, the Robin news that Jenna Malone is possibly Carrie Kelly, which is the character Frank Miller created in The Dark Knight Returns, one of the greatest graphic novels of all time. In my opinion. I do too. I think it's fantastic. I love the idea of a female Robin. We just talked about it, and moreover, I just love the idea that it's literally taking a page out of the graphic novel. So
I like the idea that it might be Jenna Malone. Because Jenna Malone sort of, she disappeared in random indie movies for a long time, and now she's kind of, I don't know, she's bringing out the claws. She's really good in the Hunger Games series.
Oh yeah.
I love the fact that maybe she's got this big role as a female Robin in the Batman v Superman, because that expands her. She's an actress that all of a sudden, it's like she woke up and she was like, you know what, screw it, I'm just gonna go be a badass in big movies.
Yeah,
and I love it.
Well, yeah, she worked with Zach on Sucker Punch.
Yep.
Yeah, she was in Sucker Punch too. So I love this kind of new version of Jenna Malone that we're seeing.
Yeah,
and I hope it continues.
And I really hope that this is true, because we were talking about it a little bit earlier, Eric, before you Skyped in. We would love to see Jenna Malone as Robin. That just sounds fantastic.
I think it kind of continues. WB seems to be experimenting with its casting, just taking these big leaps. I think that's what actually I was out these past 2 days in Montana, but the Wrap did a really nice article actually about the first female, or not first because we had Elektra, but in the modern superhero age, the first female superhero movie, the first black one, and then Ezra Miller being queer.
Yeah, that's right. So
Warner Brothers is really kind of paving the way here.
I say we just kind of get to it, because this news is pretty big. The DC versus Marvel, and I'll start you guys off. I want to get your opinion on this, because a fan wrote something last night. We talked about it on the main show and kind of went in depth about it, but we're going to go even more in depth because it's so big. But a fan brought up that they are kind of more interested in WB and DC because they seem to have balls, to actually quote them. They're going their first female superhero movie, Wonder Woman, the first black super,
right?
Cyborg. With Cyborg, and possibly we could be getting a second with Jon Stewart and Green Lantern. What do you guys think? Right off the bat, let me just hear DC over Marvel. Who's winning right now?
I think it's hard to say that DC is winning just because Marvel's already proven themselves.
Yeah, it is a loaded question. I apologize.
Yeah, but I think Warner Brothers and DC have a slight advantage on Marvel in that they have all their characters under one roof. They don't have to share. Yeah. They don't have to have them split up between different studios, and so they can play around with that. They are making ballsier decisions. Warner Brothers releases a slate all the way through 2020, says these are the movies we're going to make. Marvel will say these are the movies we're going to make for the next 2 years, and then we'll let you know. Yeah, because they're smart, because they know if Guardians of the Galaxy, all of a sudden, holy crap, it's the biggest movie of the year. All right, now we can go ahead and take one of those release dates that we announced and make that the Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Yeah. Warner Brothers, at least on paper, they can't really do that. What if Suicide Squad becomes a Guardians of the Galaxy? Exactly. They don't have room for Suicide Squad 2. Right. So it is a bit of a ballsier move, but it is a ballsier slate, and I love the slate, and I think they're doing different things than Marvel's doing, at least in tone and direction. Mm-hmm. And so it's a cool dynamic, and I'm curious to see how it plays out.
That was very well said. Yeah. And I know I'm personally looking forward to the WB DC movies.
I am too.
Marvel. Sorry.
Yeah, and
I don't care about how much success Marvel has had. Like,
we kind of had a debate. We went back and forth. We have, we had Matt Key last night, and he hosts Marvel News from Marvel Fans, which you can find on the Schmoes Know Network, by the way.
Nice one.
Thank you.
Way to work that in.
I work it in nice. And, there was a debate on, Marvel is proven, obviously, and DC is not. That's just kind of what the fans take from it, because Man of Steel, say what you will about the movie, it did do very well, considering the polarizing opinions out there on the movie. But they didn't really have, it wasn't like a home run. So,
but I don't understand this claim. Are we not giving DC any credit for the Dark Knight trilogy? Is that all just going to Nolan?
See, yeah, I guess so. I think personally it is going to Nolan, because what you have there is they're not bringing the Nolan Batman into the new shared universe of DC. So I think people are wondering what that looks like. So, Eric, what are your thoughts on that?
I think Batman v Superman is going to give us a big idea of what that looks like, because even Man of Steel still had Christopher Nolan sort of godfather in that movie in some ways. Yeah. So this is going to be the first time where he's not there. Yeah. It's going to be it's going to be resting on Zack Snyder's shoulders to say, all right, Snyder, you're the man. You're setting us up now for everything through 2020. What he establishes in that movie is everything. To their DC universe. So I trust him. I think he knows how to deliver a movie that fans get excited about. He knows how to deliver really cool action sequences. He's a big nerd. He loves these characters. He seems like he's the right guy to have as your big sort of shepherd. But like I said, it's ballsy. You know what the ballsiest move that they're making right now is Gal Gadot. It's like, who the hell is Gal Gadot? Well, we're going to give her 4 movies. Right. You know, she's going to be in Batman v Superman. We're going to give her own solo Wonder Woman movie. We'll probably put her in 2 Justice League movies.
Oh, yeah.
And that's ballsy. I mean, it would be different if it was Anne Hathaway. We know Anne Hathaway is going to sell big movie tickets if we give her a solo Wonder Woman movie. We have no idea who Gal Gadot is, and so I love it. I love them taking those kinds of chances with it. So I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, it's they're just kind of swinging for the fence and seeing what happens.
The other thing I will say, guys, and listen, I totally believe that Warner Brothers is going to go through with everything it's saying, but these are just announcements right now.
Yes.
You know, like if everyone hates Gal Gadot and we can't understand what the hell she's saying, or you know, something happens, like she punches her fiance in the face in an elevator. Yeah. Like that, she'll be recast.
Well, that would be an interesting dynamic if they launch her in Batman v Superman and she's not up to snuff. Yeah. And they have to recast her for a solo Wonder Woman movie. I mean, that right away puts a wrench in sort of plans. And so I think they have a lot of faith in her. Yeah, they must be seeing something that they like to kind of to have that much faith in her.
Plus, she just got cast in the Ben-Hur remake. So is it because of her being Wonder Woman now? They're hedging their bets and going, oh, we're going to have a huge superstar in our hands, so let's put her in Ben-Hur? Or is it talent? Is it like she auditioned? She said she must have auditioned for Ben-Hur. Unless I could be wrong.
Yeah, no. Gal Gadot is not at the offer-only stage.
Thank you.
She's auditioning.
Yeah, so she must be able to hold her own. So I'm hoping she just knocks it out of the park too.
Well, that's what I'm curious about. Maybe Jeff, you would know. But like, do they allow to show people footage for movies that are in production to kind of get a feel for how this girl is as an actress, or is she just straight up auditioning?
I would be very surprised that Warner Brothers or Zack Snyder are giving footage of her as Wonder Woman to other producers or whatever. But I do think that absolutely goes on other movies, but not something as sensitive as that.
Yeah, I was wondering that too, because I think of that Entourage episode where they like shared some of Vinny Chase's scenes from a big movie, and then to Scorsese, and then he got the part. I am off track. Who cares about that?
I also heard that's how Josh Trank got Star Wars, is that they showed they showed them his little Fantastic Four reel that he got that job with.
That's right.
I totally believe that, but again, he's the director, you know. So it's like, this is my movie. I have the dailies on my computer. I'll stitch something together and show you something. Right. But Gal Gadot can't exactly do that.
Right. But with her casting, everybody was like, who? And now she's kind of more of a name just because of the project.
Everyone's trying to draft Coast on that success, or exactly. I mean, they know that she's going to be a star, so they feel a lot safer about casting her in Ben-Hur.
Yeah. Well, real quick, Erik, I want to find out first, how did you start at movies.com and Fandango? Because we really didn't get into that, and then we'll dive into to really discuss this DC Marvel stuff.
Yeah, we did not. Well, I go way back. I'm sort of a relic.
Okay.
In the online movie blogging industry, when they open up a museum for movie blogging, it's somewhere in Rhode Island.
Yeah.
I will probably be on the wall next to a really cool Star Wars poster. Somebody be like, "Oh, who's that guy? Oh, look at that Star Wars poster." But yeah, I go all the way back to like 2003, back to when kind of personal blogging was starting to take off. They had like Blogspot, Typepad, those kinds of applications. And I had a personal blog, and I used to write a lot about movies. And then somebody was like, hey, we have this blog called Cinematical that writes about movies. Jason Calcanis started this whole web network, Engadget. is a tech. Autoblog does automobiles. TV Squad does TV, and Cinematical is our movie blog.
Okay.
Do you want to write? We pay $3 a post. And I was like, hey, I get paid to write about movies. It's $3, but who the hell cares?
Just add that up, man. You got Del Taco for dinner that night.
Yeah, so I was like, all right, my first ever thing that I ever got paid for to write about when it came to movies was the casting of Will Ferrell in Talladega Nights.
Okay.
So I remember that. It was awful. My write-up was horrible. But yeah, and so I started at this site, Cinematical, and then 6 months after I started there, AOL bought that network from Jason Calacanis, and the network began to grow, and Cinematical sort of was tucked underneath AOL Movie Phone. I stayed at Cinematical. I rose, through the ranks, so to speak. Eventually, guys like Karina Longworth, or girls like Karina Longworth, she was my first editor there. I learned a lot from her. James Rocky was one of my editors there for a time. And then I eventually became the editor-in-chief of Cinematical. And so I ran that site for probably about 4 years before the Huffington Post came in to AOL and things got a little bit hairy and messy.
Yeah. You were on the front lines for all that stuff. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I was right there when that all happened. And at the time, I was pulling double duty for Fandango, doing some daily blog posts for them. Okay. And they had this movies.com site, and they didn't really know what they wanted to do with it. And I was like, well, you know what? Our ship is sinking over at Cinematical. I have a lot of great writers. Why don't you let us come over to movies.com and try to inject something into that site and make it a fun place for people to come visit, people who like movies. And so we made that deal, and we left Cinematical as it was dying, unfortunately. It's still a sore topic for me. It's still a sore topic for a lot of people. But yeah, we came over to movies.com, and so since then we've been kind of trying to inject some different kinds of content in there. Yeah. Fun stuff. We could use a redesign. We could use some new flashy things, and hopefully that'll come in the near future. But for now, you kind of come over, and if you like movies, there's something for you that you will be able to enjoy. Of course, lately we've been following a lot of the geeky stuff, the superhero stuff, because that's what's really popular. Yeah. But we have all kinds of things on there. So
yeah, it's great. I really like your site, and I know movies.com works with the schmoes that started this all, Mark and Christian. Oh. So you go to movies.com, and on the homepage is an article that says the schmoes review of Birdman, so I know that that's a big thing for the schmoes to be on movies.com, and that's how I got familiar with you guys, and I get links all the time from Christian that says, hey, movies.com just dropped this. Did we cover this yet? And so it's pretty cool.
There's real passion on the site, and it's about the writing. It's not about the redesign. Things like that.
It really is.
I still go to Ain't It Cool News. The site's like the same.
I know. Ain't It Cool News has not changed the way it looks for.
But I like that.
20 years. I like it too. It was my number one. And that's how I got familiar with Jeff, is Mira Jeff, right? Remember that was there you go.
Yeah, so there's something charming about sites that still look like they're stuck in 2006.
Yeah, right.
There's a lot of times they're a lot easier to navigate.
Yeah.
Than some of these crazy, flashy, crazy websites that have so much information on their front page, and you just you go there and you're like, what am I looking at? I have no idea.
Yeah.
There's a picture of Will Smith. I like Will Smith.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll click on that.
Right, and that's a real interesting point for the movie press. You got your trades, you got your blogs, you got your AOL owned sites, Huffington Post, all this kind of stuff. And do you deal with any of the business side of things, Erik, in movies.com, like advertising, or are you just strictly content?
Yeah, right now I'm strictly content.
Okay.
Fandango owns movies.com, and so when it comes to the ads and all that stuff, they have their own ad sales department.
Sure.
And they deal with all that kind of crazy stuff, and I'm happy about that.
Yeah.
As much as I've always, as much as it's on my bucket list to kind of have ownership of something.
Sure.
I don't mind not having to deal with all of that stuff. I'd rather focus on the content, and I do a lot. I also do radio. I do some TV for them. So I'm still pulling double duty between both sites. So I really do a little bit of everything, which I feel like you kind of have to do these days. You can't just be like a film critic.
Yeah.
These
Yeah,
days.
it's
a little
getting
bit
harder.
Yeah, and I wish I could do that. I mean, schmoesno.com is, kind of fairly new. We've been kind of doing the movie news thing for about a year and a half now, and I'm, maybe editor-in-chief and write the occasional article now, but my God, I'm also dealing with the ads and the ad space and the tech, and, and it's interesting, the different sites, how some can be so hard to navigate. I mean, I think that's a big part of this business, is that you want to give them the news, you want to give them the content, but if you're throwing it in there and there's so many pictures and links and this and that, and then a full page ad comes up and then there's an ad for Disneyland over here, you're like, what is going on? So I'm aware of that just on the business side of things. I want to get more to the content, but I totally understand where you're coming from.
Let's talk some Suicide Squad.
I want to talk some Suicide Squad, but first I want to do this. Erik, I don't know if you're familiar. We have a thing that we do every Wednesday on Meet the Movie Press on the Facebook page. We have fans that write in hopeful news break.
Dun, 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 dun,
There it is. And I bring this up now to kind of get us into what we're going to talk about, because somebody before all the news was broken, and I like this, and guys out there in Schmoville, when you think about hopeful news break, I want you to think about like what you've heard, like what's out there, like you can kind of sense maybe what is going to break sometimes.
Sure.
Like Marvel drops the Captain America 3 with Robert Downey Jr. and Iron Man, right? And so somebody off of that news went in and said, I want to hear, and this is William Shockley, says, first he wants a Doctor Strange actor. I think we all do. I think Jeff does too,
Of course,
as well.
Pins and needles.
But he wanted to hear DC announce a solo Wonder Woman movie officially, a solo Batman film, and Superman as well. And then based on that hopeful news that he wanted to hear, the next day we got that news. So I think that's pretty cool. And I want to leave it at there. I know you guys, we could talk more about Hopeful News Break, and we will do that every Wednesday. You guys drop some of your stories that you want to hear, but this is a perfect example of what you want to hear, and it happened. So let's go into the DC slate to start, and let's talk Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
Jeff?
So it sounds like, again, I was in Montana.
Yeah.
Internet was a little spotty. So from what I understand, Hollywood Reporter went with, they said Ryan Gosling's being courted and that there are offers out to Will Smith, Tom Hardy, and Margot Robbie.
Yes.
And then the next day, Deadline came in and said it sounds like Will Smith and Tom Hardy are going to do it.
Wow. Okay. So, Erik, have you been following the Suicide Squad kind of stuff?
I have. I think Suicide Squad is probably the coolest, the one I'm most excited about out of this lineup, because I just think it's a cool movie.
Yeah.
You have David Ayer, who's a ballsy director. He makes kind of gritty movies. They say it's going to be a gritty film. I would love it for it to be R-rated, although I don't think it will be.
Yeah.
But it's a cool film because this is something Marvel's not doing yet. They don't have a big film with a bunch of villains. We're going to see, Sinister Six, we're going to see that.
Yeah.
But in terms of Marvel Studios, they're not doing it. And to do it kind of right off the bat after Batman v Superman, or somewhere around there, it's early on in their slate.
Yeah.
You can kind of get people behind all of these villains and have people rooting for them in different ways. But then you could spin that back around and maybe use these villains later on in movies where you're rooting against them. And I like that dynamic. I like kind of screwing with the audience in that way.
Yeah.
Especially if we're a big fan of Deadshot.
Yeah.
Say they get Ryan Gosling to play Deadshot, which would be great.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're like, yeah, I love Deadshot. Awesome. Yeah, go Deadshot. And then we bring him back and he's the villain in a Batman movie or something.
Yeah.
That's a cool dynamic.
That is a really cool dynamic. And not to deviate from the DC, but I also heard Ryan Gosling circling or looking at Doctor Strange.
Oh God!
Did you hear that?
No,
yeah,
actually, I didn't.
You didn't? Where did I hear that? I want to say Variety, actually, or Hollywood Reporter, one of those.
No, it was that Hollywood Reporter story.
Yeah.
Ryan Gosling's not going to be Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
Ryan Gosling's cool. He's not strange.
I love that.
He's cool.
You know what, Erik? I think Ryan Gosling, because he has been so comfortable in, I guess you could call it independent fare, but he's more interested in interesting characters. And I think if he goes and does Deadshot, that's kind of more in line with maybe, I'll play the villain. I'll start with being the anti-hero.
Deadshot's right up there with Michael Corleone. Jesus Christ.
Deadshot's a cool character.
Jesus Christ. I don't know any of the characters. I mean, if I know any of them in Suicide Squad, I guess Deadshot's the one I've heard of. But I don't know any of the other ones. But what I think is interesting is that if Tom Hardy and Will Smith do end up doing it, it's kind of the reverse, strategy from Batman vs Superman. They're casting Jason Momoa, Gal Gadot, Ezra Miller. Not household names, but it's the characters. Those are the stars. Whereas Suicide Squad, we don't really know the characters, and so we need movie stars to bring them to life.
Absolutely.
I'm interested in the Will Smith part of this, because Will Smith, everybody's always been like, he's scared to play evil. He's scared to play a bad guy. That's why he wasn't in Django.
Right, he likes to be the hero.
And Hancock. I kind of liked Hancock. The original script for that was a lot darker.
Right.
Yeah, it was.
Tonight He Comes.
Yeah, that's right. The original.
Quite the title.
Yeah.
It was kind of a cool script, and it was kind of a cool movie, and I was happy to see Will Smith sign on to that. But yeah, I'd be curious to see him in this film and playing a supervillain, and what that means then. Do they tie him down to multiple films, or is he just doing this? And that he's an interesting name to see kind of come in this, just because he's so picky and choosy.
Yeah, and I'm wondering too.
You wouldn't know it by his recent films, though.
And that's my point. I mean, he's kind of made some movies that have stunk, as of late. So, do you think this might be his way of going, okay, I'm going to kind of switch gears a little bit, maybe redefine my image, and I'm going to play a villain now, or an anti-hero in the Suicide Squad that, like you said, Eric, could then maybe show up as a villain in another DC property. I mean, do you think that might be some of the reasons behind this?
Yeah. I mean, it's a superhero movie, and that's what's hot right now. And if you're an actor like Will Smith, who for most of your career you were opening up movies like gangbusters, you were the man when it came to opening up movies.
Yeah.
And then After Earth doesn't kind of pull in Will Smith numbers.
Yeah.
You were like, okay, if I'm going to keep doing these big movies, if I'm going to keep being quote unquote Will Smith, then I got to do a superhero movie, because that's what's big right now.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and to do the villain, I'm using air quotes for those of you listening at home, it just seems like an interesting choice for him. So I like that. And Tom Hardy, I'll just get behind anything he does.
They should put him as Bane. Why not? Screw it.
Right?
Well, Bane's not part of Suicide Squad. Yeah, but I need another movie with Tom Hardy as Bane.
Yeah,
just
I know.
For the hell of it. Just
I would
for
love
the
that.
sound cues and.
But then that would have the sound cues.
Could they do it for the jokes? Could they put Tom Hardy as Bane just for the jokes?
Yeah, right. But then that would tie the Nolan universe in, which is not apparently. So who knows? I mean, it's getting so convoluted now.
I just want a movie with Bane in a car for 90 minutes, talking to his pregnant whatever.
That is a great. That's a guys listening out there, burgeoning young filmmakers, make that short. That's pretty good. I like that.
It is interesting that they want to use Tom Hardy again so soon after The Dark Knight Rises. So they're going to really have to make him look a lot different. So this way people aren't like, wait, did we just see this guy? Is the same character? They don't want confusion there.
Right. And so, continuing on in Suicide Squad, a lot of people have said, hey, this could be the DC version of a Guardians of the Galaxy, which I think if it's executed well, written well, acted and cast well, like Guardians of the Galaxy was, I think they could be right.
Technically, all the Guardians could be villains, in someone else's movie.
Yeah. I mean, I think Star-Lord probably...
He was a thief, though, right?
He was a thief, yeah.
I mean...
He wasn't a very honorable character to start.
There's some hero out there in the galaxy who's trying to stop Chris Pratt.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm hoping Suicide Squad will be that type of movie. I am most intrigued, I think, out of all of them because of my lack of knowledge of the source material. So I can kind of go in like pretty fresh,
that's exciting to me as well. I like the idea that there's no black or white when it comes to heroes and villains.
Yeah. And I like, again, Eric, we had El Mayambe. Have you heard that name before?
Oh, I'm good friends with El Mayambe.
There you go.
Yes, we are New York boys.
Yep, he is a New York boy, and he came and he kind of broke down his CIA Black Ops mission.
We got snipers on the roof.
He's got snipers on the roofs getting these scoops, and he did drop, the characters of Suicide Squad as well as the villain of Batman v Superman. So kind of segueing in now to some of the DC stuff. Do you think some of these blogs, like especially Latino Review, sometimes they seem to drop a huge scoop and then like a week later it'll be confirmed by some of the trades. So do you think that had anything to do with this announcement with DC, or do you think, you know, and to give Latino Review credit, did that push the DC announcement, or was it Marvel's announcement that pushed DC to fight back?
I have a lot to say, but you go first, Erik.
Oh well, Jeff would probably know more about this than I. I mean, I would think Marvel sort of making a big announcement would force their hand a little bit more than Latino Review making a big announcement.
Sure.
The one thing I don't like about Latino Review's break, though, especially when as it pertains to the Suicide Squad lineup, is I don't know how you make a Suicide Squad film and not have Harley Quinn as a character. I mean, when I go to Comic-Con, every other girl is dressed as Harley Quinn. This is a character that people are salivating for.
Yeah.
They want to see her on screen. And that's why I would love to see Margot Robbie playing her. I can imagine she may be playing Vixen.
Yeah.
If that's the lineup that they're going with. But I just don't know how you don't have Harley Quinn in the Suicide Squad movie. You got to bring her out.
I agree.
As far as the actual announcement goes, you know, a lot of people thought it was very interesting that Warner Brothers chose to reveal all this stuff in an investor call rather than to fans when New York Comic Con ended, 72 hours before.
Yeah.
Seems like a baffling decision that kind of shows you where their head's at. And then a lot of people were talking about the timing. You know, it came right after the Marvel announcement. So it's like, oh, did they counter with that? Well, what if Marvel heard that Warner Brothers was going to say all this stuff on the investor call and decided to steal their thunder the day before?
That's very true. That's very true. I think everybody is always saying that DC is trying to play catch up with Marvel. And so the idea of the news of this Civil War and setting up Civil War with Iron Man in Captain America 3 and what that'll do to the whole shared universe in Marvel, it's interesting that you know, that you're spinning it on its head. And I could actually see that.
It makes sense on for a few different reasons, you know, but also Robert Downey Jr. You know, Marvel had to kind of put a halt to the Robert Downey Jr. train at some point because he was all over the place.
Right.
You know, he was obviously teasing something big.
Yeah.
And everybody was reporting it like crazy. So at some point they had to come and say, okay, no, this is what he's talking about. But yeah, you know, I do like it. Marvel stealing thunder though, because when you get down to it, it's not a decision they have to tell you this week.
Right.
They could delay it. You know, he's not going to be doing press for the judge forever.
Right.
But
he might have to.
So, but yeah, I do like Marvel kind of possibly saying, hey, Warner Bros. Is going to have this investors call. They're going to drop some big news. Why don't we drop some big news 2 days before and steal some thunder? So, yeah, it does make sense.
Yeah.
I just thought the timing was really interesting. And, you know, going back to that Robert Downey Jr. story that Variety broke, and it was a good story. Mark Grazer worked, it seemed like he had spent some time on that. And we're going to have Mark on soon. I'm planning on it.
Good.
Because I'd love to hear sort of what went into that.
Yeah.
What I was really most interested in were the details, you know, the stuff about the contracts and Ike versus Kevin, you know, inside Marvel. Like, that was the really juicy insidery stuff that I thought Mark, did a great job with. As far as the scoop itself, like Robert Downey Jr. doing Captain America 3, I don't understand what the big surprise was. Like, he's been talking about renegotiating his contract. Yeah. He says, I'm not doing Iron Man 4. There's 2 movies that are casting, Doctor Strange and Captain America 3. Like, what did we think that it was?
Yeah, and I think that, you know, it's interesting you bring up the business side of it because as well as I heard it was like Downey Jr. really sparked to the idea, wanted to be more involved, and so the negotiations went further or got heated, as it were, as what you were talking about, right? There was like Ike was like, no, I don't want to do this.
That was all in Mark's report.
It was a great report, guys. If you want to read some of the business, I mean, because that's what, you know, sure, Meet the Movie Press and the guys we're talking about right now, and you know, we talk about it for the fans, but when you think about the business side of it, especially the business side of the, these are huge movies. So to have negotiations going on with Robert Downey Jr., knowing that will like break the internet, so to speak, to get him involved. I wasn't surprised to have his character pop up in Captain America 3. I think what it was is the Civil War.
Yeah, no, that was really cool. Obviously, you know, Mark broke that wide open, and that to me was also the most exciting part.
Yeah, and I remember.
I didn't know much about Civil War. So.
Yeah, and I followed the Marvel comic line Civil War. I loved it. I read all the issues. I collected them, and then I saw a weird tweet from Marvel that had Civil War 2015.
Right.
And I'm like, are they relaunching Civil War? Are they rebooting it comic-wise?
Right.
No movie. And then I kind of out of curiosity started looking around, and maybe it's a special edition collector's book or something. I don't know. And then all of a sudden that dropped.
And honestly, guys, I haven't spoken to Mark yet, but I think that tweet forced Variety's hand. I think when Variety saw that tweet, and there were all these clues that it was going that was going to be the announcement, I felt like Variety's like, listen, we can't hold this any longer.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if that Marvel tweet played a big part in their decision to publish. And these are the kinds of things that we talk about on Meet the Movie Press.
Yeah, that's right. And by the way, we have Erik Davis from movies.com. Erik, your thoughts on the Marvel Civil War? Are you a fan of the source material, or were you floored by the announcement?
I think it's a cool idea, and it's interesting, Mark. The only other website that is linked to in that Variety piece is movies.com, because we did an interview with the Russo brothers for the Cap 2 Blu-ray, and they said, people are going to freak out when they hear what we're doing. Yeah. And so I knew that something was going to happen, and it makes sense for Downey Jr. to do it, and it makes sense in terms of the Civil War storyline. I read Faraci's stuff a lot on Badass, and he puts it in perspective really nicely, and he kind of lays it all out there for you. Yeah. In terms of how the story is going to play, throughout the movies. But Ultron, everything I know about Ultron, and I was on the set of that film, is that it's going to be bonkers and crazy. Yeah. And that after that movie's over, they're going to have to sort of change up the dynamic in some form. And so I think if these guys are all coming together to defeat the craziest villain that we've ever seen in a superhero movie on the big screen, then it would make sense for them to then do a movie where they have to be split and divided against each other. Yeah. Because when you have a villain that's all powerful, that can just go crazy and do crazy amounts of damage, then you want to change that dynamic and have the villain be one of their own. So.
Yeah, and I thought it was very interesting because, again, I mentioned Matt Key from Marvel News from Marvel Fans saying, it could be that there's going to be the Civil War storyline, the heroes are divided, and then maybe Thanos comes in. There's the rumor of Avengers being split up into two movies, that maybe Thanos comes in that brings the teams back together. So I find it all interesting. It's a very, very crazy... as a fanboy, I'm loving it. I'm loving this idea of the Civil War. I don't know if the rumors of Sony working with Marvel to get Spider-Man in that kind of movie, because Spider-Man in the source material plays a huge part in that story. So I don't know how you can do a Civil War without Spider-Man. And Faraci especially did a great breakdown, like you said, Erik. And he kind of mentions that. It's like, who knows how it could work, but... I just it's kind of blowing my mind as a fanboy. So
I think it has to happen. I think they have to get Spider-Man over. Yeah. And I think Sony knows that it has to happen because they need to relaunch Spider-Man. I mean, they're going to do a Spider-Man 3 and keep Andrew Garfield. I think you keep Andrew Garfield. I think the guy's great as Spider-Man and Peter Parker.
I agree.
Yeah.
He's not the problem.
Yeah, no, he's not the problem.
I think you bring him over to Marvel Studios, you let Kevin Feige kind of massage that character a little bit.
Yeah.
And you relaunch him in an Avengers 3, and then from that, you use that to come back to a Spider-Man 3, and maybe even have Feige over there kind of godfathering that movie.
I don't know if that'll ever happen.
Yeah.
Or at least massaging in the background.
Yeah, but by the way, I got it when you said that the first time, just like a minute ago, my mind flashed to Kevin actually massaging Spider-Man. I was imagining
it's okay, man.
Fiction.
Don't worry, buddy. It gets better. We'll take care of Sony. Yeah, and that's another interesting dynamic that we've been hearing. I've heard reports that Fox and Marvel, like Marvel's trying to bury the Fantastic Four comics because they don't like Fox and what they're doing there. And so that's an interesting dynamic. It's interesting that Sony has Spider-Man, and, then I've heard that it's a soft reboot with Sinister Six, so I don't know what's going to play out. This is some crazy superhero times. I mean, we've done the whole episode on superheroes.
I know, and unfortunately, I really think that's a problem. I think that we need to be talking about other scoops here.
Yeah.
But this was a special week. So
It was a special week.
Hopefully next week, we'll try and maybe get the focus back to like indies, some award season stuff.
Some award season stuff. Like we could talk about
horror movies coming up. Are we going to get Ryan Turek?
Yeah, actually we have Ryan Turek coming on the Halloween episode.
Great. That's great.
So we're going to, just so you guys know, a little tease for the Halloween episode in 2 weeks. We're going to have Ryan Turek from Shock Till You Drop, and we're going to talk all horror movies, which I can't wait for. But Erik, it's been a pleasure, man. We got to wrap it up here on Meet the Movie Press. Where can the good people find you again?
You can find me at movies.com. You can find me over at fandango.com and on Twitter at Erik, Erik Davis, Davis.
Awesome. Well, we loved having you on, man. You got a great New York thing going there, man.
I love it.
I love talking to you in your opinions, and I'm going to be following up on your stuff all the time, man. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, man. And go see Birdman if you haven't seen Birdman.
I know. I haven't
Absolutely.
seen it. I need to see it. I can't wait.
Fantastic film.
I can't wait.
Have a good weekend, man.
Yeah, thanks, Erik.
You too, guys.
So that was Erik Davis from movies.com and Fandango, and that is all the time we have on Meet the Movie Press. Jeff, where do people find you, and what are you working on? Maybe a little tease?
Oh, God. Again.
Yeah, I know.
I have to catch up on like 72 hours worth of emails, which is like 1,000 emails.
Yeah, right. I bet.
You can follow me on at the Insnider on Twitter.
That's right.
And therap.com.
That's right. And as always, you can find me on schmoesknow.com as well as at Reilly Around, Reilly Around. And guys, be sure again, share, comment, subscribe. If you subscribed, why don't you go on back and resubscribe? And thank you for doing so. And we will have a great show for next week. This is Mark Reilly.
And Jeff Snyder. You just met the Movie Press.
See you next week, guys.
From producers Christian Harloff, Mark Ellis, and the entire Schmoes Know Network crew, we would like to thank you for listening to Meet the Movie Press. Special thanks to Kevin Undergaro and Maria Menounos, the author of Every Girl's Guide to Diet and Fitness, in stores now. To watch or listen to other Schmoes Know Network episodes, get movie news, or join the conversation, be sure to visit schmoesknow.com. I'm the Pit Boss, and this has been a presentation of Schmoes Know.